We are ready to start.
Good evening, everyone.
One dog is enough. I don't need more pets.
This is a meeting of Livingston's Planning Board, regular meeting, and notice of this meeting has been distributed in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Please be advised that this meeting is being video and audio recorded. Mr. Klein?
Present.
Mr. Ratner?
Here.
Mr. Reber?
Here.
Mr. Diner?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Ms. Cucci? Here. Ms. Begoli? Ms. Begoli? Ms. Vishnu?
Here.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Mrs. Santola is not present this evening. We do have our board attorney and our assistant township engineer. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Jackie, if you can please call the first matter.
That matter scheduled for this evening is a minor subdivision with variances for Block 4001, Lot 15, 23 Harvest Lane, application number 2023-1-MSUBV, John W. Stewart.
Thank you, and welcome. First, I just want to go through, for those that may be here for the first time, the general procedure for tonight's hearing. The applicant is here and will explain the application. The applicant will call one or more witnesses to give sworn testimony in support of the application. Members of the board may ask the witness questions. When the applicant has no more questions for a witness, interested parties in favor of or in opposition to the application may question the witness about that witness's testimony. At this part of the proceeding, only questions for the witness may be put forward. When all of the applicant's witnesses have testified and have been questioned, if there is any entity or group formally appearing as a party in support or in opposition to the application, that party may call witnesses. When all the witnesses of all the parties have been heard, members of the public may give sworn statements for or against the application. Persons who give such statements can be asked questions by the board, the applicant, or other members of the public. Thank you. If you can please, your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is John Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. And you may call your first witness.
My only witness is Michael Lanzafama, Casey and Keller.
Thank you. Richard, if you can just...
You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Michael Lanzafama. That's L-A-N-Z-A-F-A-M-A. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner, licensed in the state of New Jersey. I'm a principal with the firm of Casey and Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey. I've appeared before this board on numerous occasions in similar matters.
License is still current?
My licenses are still current.
Outstanding.
Yes,
Since
Mr.
last week.
That's a question Mr. Klein always loves to ask.
You take that from Mr. Klein's
I
lead,
did.
know.
I appreciate you doing that for me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Emeritus. Anybody have any questions for...
What expertise is he testifying? He's testifying as...
As an expert
Well,
in...
in this particular application, I imagine all three. As a surveyor for the subdivision, as an engineer for the road improvements, and as a planner for the variance.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Lanzafama? Any objection to Mr. Lanzafama appearing as an expert in planning, engineering, and the third was?
Architecture.
No, surveying.
Engineering.
Surveying, engineering, and planning.
Surveying. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Hearing no objections, it's all yours.
Thank you. What I have up on the screen is a copy of a survey that was prepared for the subject property. The property in question of this application is 23 Harvest Lane. It's tax lot 15 in block 4001. The property is a 21,216 square foot parcel, just under a half an acre, and it is located in the R4 residential zone district. The property is located at a point along Harvest Lane where the zoning transitions from the commercial zone to the R4 zone. This is the area just beyond the CVS and Bottle King site. where the roadway kind of ends, if you would, and there's no improvement except for a bituminous drive that accesses this property from the commercial side. So the property itself is rectangular in shape. It's on the easterly side of Harvest Lane, approximately 272 feet from Northfield. The property has 125 feet of frontage along Harvest Lane, and the property is currently occupied, as you can see, by an existing two-family dwelling. There's a detached garage towards the rear of the property. There is an access drive that is located on the north side of the parcel. The existing lot is existing house, is set back about 31 feet from Harvest Lane, where 40 feet is required under the zoning, so it's therefore an existing non-compliant structure. All utilities, as you can see from the map, are available from Harvest Lane. There's sewer, water, electricity, gas are all readily available. There's no need to extend improvements with regard to utilities. We are proposing, as part of the application, and what I'm bringing up on the screen right now is a copy of the subdivision plat. I'm just blowing up the area directly in front of the property where we're showing how the roadway would be improved to provide for adequate access to the two potential lots that are part of the subdivision. So basically, we're extending the existing granite block curb along both sides of the street across our frontage. We're providing new pavement and new concrete sidewalks on our side of the street. As part of the proposal, we are proposing, as indicated in the engineer's memo, a guide rail at the terminus of the Harvest Lane on both the residential and the commercial side. We've received a memo from engineering. The original memo was dated January 18th, and we made certain amendments based upon that, and we received a follow-up memo on February 22nd. And one of the items that were indicated in the memo, if I can see, this curb that we're proposing a curb that would go perpendicular to the road. So we're going to modify this so that the curb line is extended 5 feet. First, we're going to go 5 feet past the property and then make it perpendicular to the right, to the curb line or the right-of-way. Then we're going to take the curb that is on the north side and we're going to extend that to the north about 20 feet, which puts it right near the sanitary sewer manhole. And we're going to run that curb, again, perpendicular to the existing curbs and move that guide rail. So that'll leave us a more significant green space in which we can provide for some landscaping to give some buffering between the commercial area and the residential area of Harvest Lane. So we will be making those adjustments to the plan as recommended in the engineering memo dated February 22nd, 2023. So the proposal that is before you and requires the approval of the board is basically dividing into two almost equal lots. Tax lot 15, we're calling lot 15.01 is the southerly parcel. Lot 15.02 is the northerly parcel. Both of the lots will have frontage of about 62.5 feet. Lot 15.01 would be 62.54 feet to be exact, and be about 169.9 feet deep, giving it a total land area of 10,596 square feet. Lot 15.02 would be 62.53 feet of frontage, again, similar depth, 169.9 feet, giving us a total land area of 10,619 square feet. In the R4 zone, we're required to have 9,375 square feet within 125 feet of the Front Street right-of-way line. So because these lots are only 62.5 feet wide, we fall short of that standard. So if you look at the zoning table on the left corner of the plan, you can see that we've indicated what the total lot areas are, and then below that, in parentheses, we indicate what the lot areas would be within 125 feet of Harvest Lane. And you can see that proposed lot 15.01 would have 7,817 square feet, thereby requiring a variance of 1,558 square feet. Proposed lot 15.02 would be 7,816 square feet, requiring a variance of 1,559 square feet. Looking at the right side of the drawing, there is an area map that shows you the configuration of block 4001. And as you can see, there's a variety of lot configurations and sizes. Properties within the R4 zone, there's a total of 11 lots, 11 building lots. Lots 13 and 14 are actually a single lot. It's owned by the same party, and the improvements on it overlap the lot line. So it's a single lot. So of those 11 lots, 9 of them don't meet the standard of the R4 zone. That's almost 82% of the lots in the block don't meet the R4 standard. And in addition, 10 of the lots that you see in that area are smaller than the total lot areas we're providing on our application. When we did an inventory of the lot sizes from tax lot 3 through tax lot 14, we found that the average lot size was 8,241 square feet. So it's still less than what we are proposing in the total lot area. And I think that's key. I think that demonstrates that what we're doing is not inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. So based on that, I believe there's justification under the C2 criteria of the municipal land use law to permit the subdivision to go forward without any substantial detriment to the public good or the intent and purpose of the zone plan. Under the C2 criteria, we're required to demonstrate that the municipal land use law would be advanced by a deviation from the zoning ordinance requirements, and that the benefits of the deviation would substantially outweigh any negative impacts that might occur as a result of the application being approved. And the first part, when we're talking about whether or not the deviation would be a problem, we have to look at what parts of the municipal land use law's goals and objectives are being advanced by this application. That's often referred to as the positive criteria. And in my opinion, I believe that this application will promote the general welfare, that item E under the MLUL is to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, and communities. And G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of residential uses. Now, when I mention that, in my opinion, this advances the general welfare, why do I say that? Well, when I look to the state's master plan, the state's master plan often refers to something as smart growth. And smart growth is the thought of developing in areas where infrastructure already exists, where road improvements already exist, and not result in suburban sprawl that we all experienced in the 60s and 70s. So we're looking at it's often referred to as infill development as well. So in my opinion, this clearly meets the guidelines of the state master plan with regard to smart growth and compact development, so that, in my opinion, there's no detriment to the public good. This provides for new housing opportunities without the need for new infrastructure. The new homes will meet all of the bulk standards of the zone. If it turns back on. There we go. There we go. And finally, the new lots will have improved setbacks over the existing because the new homes would meet the required 40-foot setback as required by the local zoning ordinance. So again, to summarize, we're looking for approximately a 1,500 square foot variance for each of the parcels. And the reason for that is that the lots are a little more narrow than normally is anticipated in the R4 zone, but the lots are still wide enough to build reasonable houses that are going to be about 3,000 square feet, because that's the limitation of the zone, where 30% of the lot area is permitted. We have roughly 10,600 square feet, so you're looking at about 3,100 square foot house that could be built on these parcels. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board or the public might have.
I've just a question about, we're talking about, without substantial detriment. And I know that the residents in this area, have some very significant concerns with, construction on this street impacting their water, impacting the water table, impacting flooding into their homes. This is something that I would probably say everyone on that road has raised by, allowing any type of construction on that road. So here, we're taking, we're being asked to split a lot, take down, I think you might have said it's a two-story home, not a two-family home, correct?
Two-story. Did I say
Two-story.
two-fammy? I meant two-story.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Thank you for the correction.
Replacing that now with two homes
Correct.
and possibly exacerbating what is a concern of all the neighbors on that road. So how do we know that by building any type of home on that road, whether it's at that location or any location along there, that that's not going to exacerbate that problem?
Okay. The first thing I'd like to point out is that if no subdivision occurs, you could still tear down the existing house and build a new house and provide a circular driveway, pool, cabana, whatever in the back, and you'd still have impervious coverage that you have to deal with. As part of the engineering review memorandum, it indicated that not only do we have to secure soil erosion sediment control certification, but we also have to secure a lot grading permit from the township. And the lot grading permit reviews things like grading, drainage, runoff, and requires us to either provide for some type of on-site detention in the form of dry wells, if the soils are conducive to that, or direct connection to the municipal storm sewer system. If you notice that this particular location has the benefit of at least 5 catch basins immediately in front of the property. So by reworking the grades in the roadway, we can direct the runoff to the low spot, which occurs right next to these, right across from these two inlets, would be the low spot in the road. The grade would run down from the residential portion of Harvest, collect at that location, and then that storm sewer runs to the north. So you can see that there's a storm sewer that's available readily for the development of both of these properties. So, and if when you look at the topography of the site, the house is kind of sitting up, and the drainage, the topography is pushing it towards Harvest Lane and then collecting it in the street. So I don't anticipate any negative impact on the adjoining property owners as a result of the development of the two lots. We have to submit to the engineering department for review and approval of a lot grading permit. We've already secured county planning board approval for this application, and we would be filing with the Hudson Essex Passaic Soil Conservation for another set of eyes to look at the proposed grading on it and the drainage for them to issue a soil erosion and sediment control certification prior to any construction.
Now, how about trees coming down? How many trees would be coming down and,
There's probably maybe one.
okay.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned that 82% of the homes don't configure. How don't,
The lots
in the
are
R4?
smaller.
In the R4, so are they smaller than 7,800 square feet? I mean, what, of the
Um,
82%, I mean, are most of them not configured?
I think
they need
the
to be
average was
90%.
8,200 let's go back to, I have a summary here. I can tick them all for you. So when you're looking at, for example, Lot 3 is 7,490 square feet. Lot 4 is 7,561. Lot 5 is the largest of the group at 11,169. Lot 6 is only 7,493. Lot 7 is 6,886. Lot 8 is 6,814. Lot 9 is 8,652.
So most don't configure because of the square footage?
Right, none of them comply with the square footage, the minimum square footage. And even when you look at our areas within 125 linear feet of the street line, even that area exceeds many of, we're at roughly 7,800 square feet. So there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's at least 6 of the 11 lots that are smaller than that area. So they're not inconsistent. I think it's a reasonable ask. I think the variance, as I said, could be granted without any negative impact to the area. I think there's enough checks in place with regard to soil conservation, Livingston Engineering Department, to make sure that the neighbors are not negatively impacted by any drainage issues that could possibly arise from the construction of 2 single-family homes.
Just sort of following up on what the chairman asked you, and I don't, if you could pull up the neighborhood map, or whatever that you had up earlier. So, looking at the map, up in the upper right-hand corner, sort of where Roosevelt Terrace meets Cedar Parkway meets Harvest Lane, there's a red Zone 4.
Correct.
Right, so we had heard previously, in an unrelated matter, from a number of those neighbors in and along those streets, and then proceeding sort of northwest on Harvest Lane, that there's significant flooding, and I just want to be clear, so you, I don't know if you surveyed it or you're going off topo maps, but you're saying that the low point in Harvest Lane is further north of all those properties, sort of northwest, and closer to the corner of your property, so that no waters from those properties in that area are going to flow sort of uphill to the other direction?
That's correct. If you look at the topographic survey, that's part of the application, the low point occurs right in front of our property. The low point is occurring, my little cursor, there you go.
And
This is the low point in the area.
Low point, and I
It's
guess how
right-
big is the area?
Everything's running into there.
So where's the low point going all the way to where Harvest Lane begins? I mean, I don't know how big the area is that you're saying the low point, because there can be one low point, then a hill, and
No,
another low
there's a
point.
low point here, and then a high point exists about here, and then the water flows north.
Okay, so
Away
that
away
going
from
the other,
away from the residential
so
property.
going the other direction is going more uphill? More
Let me go
to
back.
the,
So-
heading
so-
towards
So the water, there's
Cedar
a
Parkway.
low spot right here,
right,
then it rises slightly to about this point, and then it pitches north towards Route 10.
okay, but then from
This
where, you-
whole area pitches down towards us.
right, so where you showed the low point
Yes.
there, to the southeast of there, going up Harvest Lane, that's uphill?
This
The
is
low-
uphill.
All right, so it's all getting progressively lower to the low point, okay?
That is correct.
Yeah, all right, I just wanted to confirm, because there have been,
And if we can just mark this as one of our exhibits.
it is
This
part of the.
It is the- is it colorized
this is the
version?
drawing
Yeah,
that's submitted as
it's
part
in,
of the
it's in
application.
what they submitted as the
Okay.
color, yeah.
Mike, is there any point to the east or south that's higher than this property? Or lower than this property? I'm sorry.
Most of the area to the east and to the south is higher.
Higher than this property. so that the likelihood is that even sheet flow is going to come down and go
basically the width
That
of
is
this
correct.
property and install it. And the only question I'm trying to figure out is when the original guardrail was put in, was that done by some sort of an ordinance or resolution, some sort of settlement agreement? Is there
I have-
something official that we need to sort of undo
And,
to
you know,
get
we-
the
we
blessing
did-
to move
We
it?
did the Bottle King and CVS application. When I did that survey, the guardrail was there, so.
Right, I think,
I-
I'm told the guardrail was put in when the bank
when
across the street went in.
Wells Fargo went in.
And it appears to have been somewhere between 97 and 2002, near as I've been able to pin it down, but I only looked at the start, I guess. So my question is whether if the council or somebody did an ordinance or something to put that in, do we need to unwind that to allow the
That I
guardrail
don't
to be
know.
moved?
That I don't know.
Because I don't think the planning board would have jurisdiction to close a road,
That's correct.
right? I
It
mean, I
would-
think that
it
would have
be
somehow had to
municipal
go to the
ordinance.
town council.
Correct.
And so I'm wondering if it has to go for them to give the blessing to move the guardrail to another location. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I do have.
My question.
Of course I have.
I told him not to take my question.
She asked him this, I said, you told me not to take
I
your
wrote it
question."
down and I said, don't take my question. He had the same question. I have a question about fire department being able to get down that road. My understanding is that it has to be wide enough for them to be able to turn around safely and not back out of the road.
Well, they don't have to turn around. It's not necessary for them necessarily to turn around. The residential site improvement standards, typically, they limit the length of a dead-end street on what they call multifamily streets, courts, to 300 feet. So this is just about 300 feet to the start of this property. The cartway is 30 feet wide, which is standard for throughout the municipality, meets the residential site improvement standards. And remember, you have the ability to go all the way through. If there was a concern about that, instead of a guide rail, you could have a breakaway fence or a breakaway chain that would prevent interconnecting traffic from the commercial going through the residential, but at the same time, the fire department could have a Knox box on that gate, open it up, and just pull right out to Route 10. So there's no need for them to back up.
And I assume
Significantly
RSIS
change the
doesn't
road.
require cul-de-sac, given the number of houses or the length of the
Yeah,
street
normally a dead-end street, you can go up to 25 houses,
before you get
but
a cul-de-sac.
RSS is really, it's silent about when a cul-de-sac is
Right.
truly needed, other than on the multifamily courts. That's the only place it appears in the residential site improvement standards, is when the residential court is longer than 300 feet. And then it talks about a cul-de-sac or some other means to turn the vehicles around.
Is the width of the street going to be any shorter by what we're doing?
It's
Is it gonna be any
exactly the
less
same as
wide?
the rest of the
So
street.
it's exactly what's there right now?
It's exactly what's there already.
Well, not
Not
what's
really,
there right
no.
now,
You're moving
what's
it.
further up the street right now.
Right, what
Right,
the
yeah.
existing roadway condition is, we're gonna be
The
extending and
continuation
improving
part
that.
is what-
Right now, all you have is a driveway coming off the end of the commercial side of Harvest.
Right, so we are changing it because you're moving it up and putting two frontages on this side of the street, correct? As
The-
opposed to
the-
on
the
this
sh-
side.
The right-of-way already exists.
Only one house.
The right-of-way already
The new
exists. We're not
two.
extending the street. We are improving what's referred to as the cartway. There's a difference.
Could you go on the same plan, but up where you keep going down and over to the left where you show the new guardrails and zoom in a little bit on that? One of the other issues that we've previously heard from residents is the concern about buffering and having to see CVS and their lights and all that stuff. The existing condition, there's a guardrail, I don't know exactly how heavily landscaped it is.
There's no landscape.
There's not much there.
Not
Um,
much.
There's,
I've walked through it.
so what are you proposing, I don't know if you can basically that's two guardrails.
Yeah, we're showing,
I don't have a scale,
some
so how
some
wide is
evergreen
that?
plantings.
How wide
that
is
would-
how wide are the two guardrails separated? I don't, it's not scaled.
This, we're gonna be amending this plan based upon Mr. Marucci's memo.
Okay,
We're gonna be moving the northern guide rail about 15 feet further to the north, maybe 20 feet further to the north.
all right, and so, and that wouldn't impact
then
any of the
the
existing?
southern guide rail is gonna move over, so this guide rail is gonna be about here.
Right, and that would still not impact the bank driveway or the
No,
Model
no,
King driveway? or
here's the
anything?
bank
Okay.
driveway right here,
Okay,
and this is the CVS driveway.
right,
So the guide rail would drop in here, and the curb would drop in here, leaving us about 15 feet of available planting
put
area.
more plantings,
We're
okay.
proposing new evergreens
okay.
through that area to help.
Yeah, I mean, that was my concern, the way it was drawn, it seemed like you'd have like maybe one row of arborvitae or something, and you didn't have
Correct.
that much room, I don't know what that is, 8 feet, 10
Well,
feet?
when we open it up and get 15 feet of
Right.
landscaping, then we could stagger them perhaps.
Right, okay, I just wanted,
And then we're showing the new sidewalk through here. 'Cause I know one of the things that came up when we did the CVS is that people wanted to be able to walk to.
well, there actually is an asphalt kind of walkway that's to the
Yeah.
left of the guardrail, is that gonna stay, or that comes out when you do the road? and
That's gonna
then you're
come
put
out when we do the
sidewalk?
road. That's gonna
But
come
you're gonna-
out, and we'll put in a new concrete sidewalk.
Okay. And then further to the south on Harvest Lane, is there any sidewalk or no? To the, not on these properties, or is it gonna be a sidewalk to nowhere?
There's bituminous sidewalk on the west side
Okay.
of Harvest. I don't believe there's any on
On
the east side,
okay.
but we're proposing concrete sidewalk across our frontage.
Mike,
And-
who's gonna maintain those plantings? Are you gonna plant a whole bunch of trees, and is it gonna be the property owner? or-
No.
So if they die, they die? Is,
Well, we would hope they would die. We have to post a bond for the improvements. I imagine we have to post a bond for the landscaping for at least 2 years. Maintenance bond would have to be posted. But, you know, it's just like the maintenance of Harvest Lane in front of these properties, that falls on the municipality. It's a public street.
And the sidewalk, I think you're showing, depicting it, that you're gonna build extends beyond just the frontage of this property and
Correct.
basically connects through what's gonna be now this wider
We-
buffer all the way through to whatever sidewalk exists over by the bank or the,
Right. Well, there's a sidewalk, the sidewalk that comes up from the CVS ends here,
right,
and there's no sidewalk on this side.
okay.
But
There'll be sidewalk through the buffer, so to speak. Is
Correct.
what I'm saying, yeah. okay.
Correct.
Mr. Lonzafama, I understand the plot to indicate that the homes that would be built would meet the habitable floor area and ratio limits.
That's correct.
And you're talking about lots which you believe will be consistent with the fabric of the neighborhood.
Correct.
I assume you really want to have homes that will not be inconsistent with the neighborhood. So,
Well, we would have
What
homes
do you
that are
do?
compliant with the zoning.
they may be larger,
They may be larger.
they may be considerably more expensive,
They
but the
could
code
be.
does not bar you from doing that.
Correct.
But I think that if we're going to grant a variance as to the size of the lots and the lot area, that the applicant might be willing to agree to a condition that there would be no application for variances from habitable floor area and habitable floor area ratios. Would that be,
I don't know if you can do that, put such a condition
if the
on.
applicant is willing to agree to that, we could do it.
I get it. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
This is empty, this is empty.
I would agree to that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Now, are there any questions from the public for this witness? Mr. Mostson, please come up.
I have a question and a statement.
You can make a statement at the end, so right now, questions only for the witness, but you will have an opportunity at the end to make a statement.
The question is, what percentage?
Before you start, name and address, please.
Skip Moffinson, 9 North Cedar Parkway, Livingston, New Jersey. My question is, what percentage of the requested variance is of the required 9375? The requested variance is 1558. What percentage of the required that he's asking to get a variance of the 9375 square feet?
I have to pull out the calculator.
I see the calculator out.
It's about 16%.
That's a statement.
That's his- sorry.
Yeah, it's about 16%.
That's my question.
Any others right now?
No other questions?
Okay, you'll have an opportunity at the end to make a statement, under oath.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, thank you.
You have to come up to the front.
Yeah, come on up. Name and address, please.
Phil Edelstein, 27 Harvest Lane. My question is primarily about the sidewalks. Next door to the location, on the first house on the other side of the barrier. You mentioned having sidewalks in front of the new buildings. Are they going to extend the rest of the block? There is no other sidewalks from my house all the way down. I know you know. Are there going to be sidewalks in front of my house? Are there going to be sidewalks across the street from us now?
I believe there's bituminous sidewalks already across the street, if I'm not mistaken.
Up until the end of the house that's there, yes, but the vacant
There's
plot in
no
front.
intention to extend the sidewalk beyond our parcel.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about sidewalks in front of my house. Is there any plan or discussion, people are not going to like me for this, on improvements on more of the street? Not that you know of. That was for you guys.
I don't
Sorry.
Repeat your name.
Sorry about that.
I didn't get your name, could you?
Phil Edelstein.
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know if
Okay.
the town has any plans to improve the street.
Okay, and you are going to be doing the paving on the street and stuff? Or is the town going to come in and,
No, it'll be done by
by
the applicant or
Right.
whoever he sells the property to,
Right.
if that's the
Okay.
case.
okay, I just didn't know if the town was going to take that over.
No, we have to post a bond to make sure that it's properly constructed. The town would do the inspections, and if everything was built in accordance with the township standards, they would accept the road.
Okay, that's basically it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none. Anything else from the board? Are there any other witnesses?
John?
No? Okay, so with that, anybody from the public, if they wish to make a sworn statement, please come on up. Name and address again, and then the attorney for the board will administer the oath.
Skip Moffinson, 9 North Cedar Parkway, Livingston, New Jersey.
Please raise your right hand.
I'm,
You swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
Just a point of information, that Harvest Lane, about 35 years ago, was a dirt road with a wooded area where the barrier is now. There were trucks that were trying to get through, and as a result, the township at that time put up the barrier. I don't know the logistics of how that happened, but that's what happened. I have a neighbor next to me, the Latticetters that live in 5 North Cedar Parkway, that couldn't be here this evening. They asked me to read this letter. So if I may, Township of Livingston Planning Board regarding application by John W. Stewart to subdivide property located at 23 Harvest Lane, Block 4001, Lot 15.
I don't think we're allowed to take because they're not under oath. So we can, you're under oath, so we can have your
Well,
statement, but without...
my statement agrees with their statement.
Well, then you can make your statement.
Okay,
And that would be coming from you and not from the Latticettes.
okay. We are concerned, I'm concerned that the property in question is not large enough to be divided into two parcels. We all know that the houses presently being built in town are very large, and if this property is divided, they would be much too large for the property. This application calls for the existing structures to be demolished. We have a severe water problem in this area, and with heavy rains and/or snow, all our pumps sometimes go for many days. Myself, I had to put a special, spend $500 for a super-duper sump pump, a second pump in my house to take the overflow that was coming, because there's a creek underneath our properties that goes right to Harvest Lane. There has been extensive building at the traffic circle and now on Eisenhower Parkway. There are plans for another enormous 71-unit residential complex, which could affect us also. These are photos on Harvest Lane during 2 ice storms where you could see the water frozen. If the water wasn't frozen, we couldn't take the picture and show you. But that just shows what's going on with the water. The water level is very, very high there, and the drainage is very, very bad. I thank you for your time.
That's what I was asking. I think if we can...
If you want those to be considered by the board, you have the right to submit them as evidence, and they'll get marked, and then the board will be able to see them.
And one other point of information, when we talk about other existing homes in our town and any town, my home was built in 1939. So to go by the restrictions that did or did not exist then and apply it to today's building doesn't make sense to me. It's not what happened in the past, it's what's happening now and what's best for the environment and the homeowners. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Malkinson, one minute. Are these photographs accurate of the conditions on, looks like December 26th of this year, of last year?
They're accurate, yes, for that date and time.
I marked them as 01 and 02.
And then, I don't know if the applicant wants to see them. Mike, do you
Thank
need
you.
to see
Name and address again, please. And
these? Chairman.
Phil
Yes.
Edelstein, 27
One
Harvest.
second.
The applicant should get
Oh,
to see the
yeah.
pictures if they want to. Just cover our bases.
Okay. Phil Edelstein, 27 Harvest Lane.
1 second, if you can administer the oath when you get a chance.
Yes. Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. I'm, again, right next door to the property. I know that this board has been asked in the past over the years to move the barrier and to extend the street down. I look at it as a good thing as far as that goes. I will say that over the years, I have had people come down Harvest Lane from the commercial side, actually drive around the barriers, around the trees that are there, onto my driveway, onto my lawn to get to Harvest Lane, okay? It happens at least once a year for the last 28 years that I'm here. Pictures of tires, tracks in the snow, if you want to see it, from multiple years. So whatever you're going to put down at the other end, there was discussion about a gate, there was discussion about the guardrail, whatever it is, has to be substantial. The other thing is, somebody had asked about landscaping in front of the guardrail. When CVS was built, the owners there put in 3 large evergreens right there, so you cannot see into the backyard of CVS, you cannot see down into Route 10. Those are probably 15-foot trees by now. Those will be gone. It would be nice if they were replaced somehow. The walkway along the side of the fence to CVS is a mess. constantly filled with garbage, constantly filled with cigarettes, with liquor bottles. I don't know who is supposed to be taking care of that, but hopefully that gets addressed as well. I know that John has done his fair share in cleaning that up, and it's really an eyesore and it's dangerous. The other thing you brought up was a low point for the storm sewers is right in front of my driveway, okay? There are houses on my block that have their sump pumps running constantly. Ice forms in front of my driveway, 10 feet out into the middle of the road. That's just something else that needs to be considered as well. The guardrail that's there, as far as I remember, and not to say that Skip is wrong, was put in by me asking for something there because of these people who were going around and coming into, driving across my lawn. That's also maybe 25, 26, 27 years ago. It is, right now it's in a mess because the backhoes put the snow on top of it, mess it up, it's all crumpled, it should be replaced, but that's a different story. But whatever they're gonna do down at the other end of town or whoever it is needs to really take care of it. I have no problem with the street going through, okay? I've had discussions with John about that for a long time. I don't know why it wasn't done when my house was built, okay? It should have been done then, either by my builders or whatever, whoever didn't want to do it at that point. So I have no problem with that. The other thing that I will ask for is any other type of improvements at the other end, down by Cedar Parkway, in terms of signage, that it's a dead end in terms of, can't say one-way street, but no parking. It's the only street that doesn't have parking, commuter parking. You can walk right down. You can park in front of my house and walk right down in front of Donut Basket and pick up the bus. It's not like that on any of the other streets that are around us. So those are all the things, as far as my statement is concerned, that need to be addressed before this all goes. I have no problem with John building houses there. I'm more concerned with the town or whoever it is going to be taking care of the street and making the upgrades and the landscaping that we're going to be losing by doing it.
If I could, I'm the town manager, obviously, so a number of things you've made are not really germane to the application, but if you can reach out to me, or I may reach out to you in terms of the parking and commuters parking, and to figure out what we need to do. Is it currently no parking? You're saying it's not?
There's no signage at all.
All right, but do you want it no parking? Would that,
Well,
because of,
I
I
mean,
mean, people are parking there and walking to the bus?
We have had people park
Okay.
there, and, before, let's put it this way, pre-pandemic, yeah, we had 2, 3, 4 cars parking there, just all of a sudden out of the blue, when I guess they realized that there's no signage there, that you can't park during the day on
Yeah,
the streets.
so, and again, that's not really relevant
Right.
here, but I do have your information
Right.
from prior conversations.
Right.
I'll reach out. And then the maintenance of the walkway, I'll get DPW on
Yeah,
that.
and again, I'm only bringing it up as relevant because the street is going to go through.
Understood.
I mean, that's why.
Well, it's gonna go
Not
further
go
and
through,
then be
but
stopped,
yes,
yeah.
it's
not
going to
go
be.
through.
And like I said, I have no problem with it moving down. I would have liked to seen it done 25 years ago. As long as people are not going to keep doing the same thing that they've done over the years as far as going around the barrier and coming across the lawn on his property or the lawn on my property now or whatever it may be. So I'm happy to show anybody the pictures of the tire tracks of cars doing that multiple times over the years. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Leitner. Name and address, please.
Joel Leitner, 12 North Cedar Parkway.
And if you can just wait as to be sworn in by the board attorney.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony given in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. I want to corroborate what they've been saying as to the drainage. I live on the high end of the ground, virtually the summit of the street. Technically, that's not entirely true, but the variance between being where I am and the summit of the street is negligible. My sump pump constantly runs on every heavy rain. Everybody on Cedar Parkway, north and south, all of the people on Harvest Lane, on Evergreen, all have the same problem. Harvest Lane has got to be horrendous. It's a problem. Any additional tax on the sewer system or deficit to the natural drainage, trees, even only one tree, if it's a sizable tree, will make a difference in the absorption and consequently taxing the water and exacerbating the water problem more than has right now. It's a big problem. And this could only make it worse in my eyes. That's my statement, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Do you have any questions for any of the,
No, Mr. Chair.
in the public? Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I just have a question for our engineer. The situation that they're talking about as to water and ice on the street, is this something that engineering is aware of? And is there any comment that you might give us that might be beneficial?
So I'd have to look at, where that road stands in our list. We have a, pretty big list of roads in town that we reconstruct, and we can only do a number of them each year. And as part of our road reconstruction, we tie all the sump pumps into our drainage system. So in this case, there could be sump pumps that are, causing some of the icing issues. I have not seen those photos, I just saw them now. I had been out to North Cedar a few years ago where we had some sump pumps and we had people disconnect them from the curb. But this is, I'll have to go by there and take a look at it to see what else can be done and see where it stands on that list,
I mean, the engineering that we're seeing on the site that Mr. Lonzafama testified to, I mean, is there any issue with regard to the way that site drains and where it drains to that's going to potentially, in your opinion, make this more of a problem?
I mean, it seems to be from the GIS lower, in grade from some of those areas. So whatever they do, they would have to tie their drainage systems in. So we would want to get that water off the road. We don't want icing, obviously. But I mean, they'd have to follow the ordinance, as far as what is permitted with new construction, so.
Okay.
Would it have an impact of exacerbating the water problem that the neighbors are currently having with these two homes being built? It just, and again, you don't, and it, you don't have plans, you don't,
Sure.
just kind of, speaking in general, so
I mean,
nothing.
in general, I would think you'd see maybe an improvement from surface water, but groundwater, I can't answer that, I don't know, but, groundwater is different than surface water. And Livingston does have a high groundwater table in general, but, any new home, if they put sump pumps in and remove the groundwater, they would have to follow newer regulations as far as where they can discharge it, so,
Thanks, Rocco.
no problem.
Thank you.
So are we good? Anybody else? So the parties have had the opportunity to make closing statements. Do you have any closing statements? I'm sorry, that either of you would like to make?
No, Mr. Chair.
The parties having had the opportunity to make closing statements, it appears to the chair that the applicant, all interested persons, and the board members have had reasonable opportunity to be heard, and that the evidentiary record of this hearing ought to be closed. Absent objection, in the absence of any motion for a continuance, the evidentiary record is closed, and no further testimony or evidence shall be heard or received. The board members now shall have the opportunity to state and discuss their views on this application. Anybody have, any thoughts, comments?
Well, before I get into the merits of the application, I do think it's important, and whether it be, depending on which way the board decides to go, I don't know whether it needs to be done ahead of time or needs to be a condition, but I do think we need to get some clarity on how the current guardrail got put in there. Did the council authorize it? Does the council need to do something to authorize moving in? So I just want to at least put out there, I think that's a question that needs to be answered, because I don't think the planning board has jurisdiction to start closing roads, moving road closures.
But to the extent that it is going to be approved as a guardrail, can it be designed so that there's no opportunity for vehicles to bypass it? So if the town does have a role in that, that should be considered.
Make sure that they're, yeah, agreed.
You want that as a condition if it's approved?
I would think you could do it as a condition, as subject to the council
So-
opening it there and closing it further down.
So do we need to get that answer first?
It depends. Not if it's gonna, only if it's gonna get approved.
That's what I mean, yeah. If it's not gonna get approved, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I'm asking whether, if the board is so inclined to approve, can it approve without that information? Or subject to that? Any other thoughts?
I mean, I just, in general, based on all of the testimony that I've heard, I mean, it doesn't appear that what they're proposing is contrary to what's reasonable in that area based on the size. The concerns that the residents have, I certainly understand their concerns, and based on what I'm hearing, it appears to be more of a in-the-ground groundwater, not surface water, that a new construction is going to have any effect on, and that a good portion of the other issues are ones that it sounds to me like the town really needs to deal with and should be dealing with to help eliminate these problems. Listen, I personally have lived in a house that's had, you could swim in my basement because of underground water that I had to spend the money myself to deal with, and I know the pain of dealing with that, but the construction that's taking place or what's being proposed, I don't see is going to exacerbate that situation, so that, I mean, with regard to what we're allowed to do with regard to approval, I don't see any issue, and what we've heard to be an issue. But I believe, and hopefully we have a member of our council and we have our town manager and our engineer that will look into the issues that you're dealing with as residents and really start to take a look at eliminating or dealing with some of those.
I think you're also making the road better. If I'm not, the road's going to be paved, we're going to have sidewalks, which is something we've wanted throughout the town for a long time. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still improving the area, so.
So we'll leave it up to the board if we want to make a motion to approve or disapprove, or a motion to give non-binding guidance to our attorney to prepare a resolution.
Well, one question which came up, and I'm not sure, I think Mr. Klein raised the question, there was a little bit of discussion, and this is always, it's sort of this catch-22. If somebody comes in with a single non-conforming lot, we're entitled to say, well, we want to see the house you're building and how big is it, and see whether it fits in with the neighborhood. Here we're being asked to basically approve and create now 2 non-conforming lots without the ability to say, we want to see the houses now. And the question came up was, well, can't we then limit them that they have to stay within the existing building envelope, so they can't come back and ask for a different, go then for another variance to the Board of Adjustment to get a bigger house on a smaller lot? I don't know, have we ever looked into that issue, our ability to condition, put a condition on the creation?
I don't know that we can interfere with the jurisdiction of the zoning board as far as
Somebody's
area
ability to
ratio,
always see.
but we can certainly put a condition which they've agreed to as to the size of the house that to be constructed.
I think that's the issue that I'm really concerned about in this whole thing.
And it's not
That
just
is-
this one, we see it all the time.
That's right, and if you talk about consistency with the fabric of the neighborhood,
Without,
you're getting that on the size of the lot. But there is a risk that even if you stay within the permitted FAR requirements, you are still going to have a building that's very likely to be significantly built significantly larger than the ones in the neighborhood. There's nothing that we can do about that unless the applicant were to come in and say, I'm willing to agree to build a smaller home than the existing code permits me to build. So the best that we can do is to try to get, as we have seemingly gotten here, an agreement that the property owner will not ask for permission to build larger than is now permitted. And that's the best that we can do under the code as it now exists.
And I think the other side of the coin is if the lot stays the size that it is, then a, significantly
Really
larger
big house
home
would get built.
that it
That
would be
is correct.
clearly out of character with the neighborhood would be built.
That is correct.
So that would be, I think, much out of the fabric of the neighborhood. If it were to stay the same size, somebody comes in, either you or somebody
No,
purchases it and builds
because
it.
it's in the same zone, could not be any larger than permitted under the code unless a variance were sought, which somebody always can seek from the zoning board and may very well get.
But
So,
the size is under the FAR, and those are all governed as a percentage of the lot size. So if you don't
That's right.
subdivide and you have a much bigger lot, you're gonna get a much bigger house.
That's
We
right.
ran into this on McClellan, and I was the one saying.
We have this
But we
discussion
still
every
have
time the
a limit on
subdivision
size
comes up, and we keep going around in a circle, because the truth, and you said that,
There's
Mr.
the
Klein, there's
cap,
nothing you
right?
can do about it.
The only time we can deal with it is if the applicant comes in and says, this is what I actually want to build.
In which case, you're then approving the house, that's not what's before us.
That's right.
It's a reasonable conclusion.
So we can't know.
All we're doing is approving a subdivision and hoping for the best, is at the end of the day, and to ensure the best we can that the engineering that's going to go on and the construction that's been proposed is being done.
Amen.
So I go back to what I asked before. Are we, anybody making a motion to approve or disapprove, or to give non-binding guidance to our attorney? What's the pleasure of the board?
I would make a motion to approve. I don't think non-binding guidance needs to be done. I believe all of the issues that have been raised, I believe the variance, the ask for the variance and what was presented is adequate to approve the variance, and, the items that have been included as conditions should absolutely be included as part of the approval, but I would vote to approve if all of those in.
I would second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Diner and a second by Mr. Klein. Any further discussion by members of the board?
Well, can we just reiterate what the conditions are? Obviously, the one condition I already addressed had to do with whether the council has to sign off on moving this barrier. Condition that the plan's going to be revised on the new guardrail.
Per the engineering memo.
That's in the memo.
Comply with the FAR rules.
Correct.
The trees that are going to get planted, and that the ones that they're talking about that have been providing screening, that those go back as well,
Correct.
and that there's going to be a 2-year, at least 2 years that,
Maintenance.
of protection for those.
Right.
Whoever plants, so puts that on their protection.
Trees,
Usually at 3 years.
The provision on trees is normally 3 years replacement, but they're not going to be on the property owner's
They're in the right of way, really.
property, they're gonna be elsewhere.
Yeah, I think they're in the right of way, actually.
Probably in the right way, yeah.
They're in the right.
So it's gonna be, not his responsibility to maintain.
That's right.
Towns.
At all? So for no period of time, but is that a condition that we could get the applicant?
I think there was a 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Are we doing 3 or 2?
Like big street
Two.
So
tree.
2 years.
Which is an aside for the public, if you see that these trees that are planted die, you need to come to the engineering department and let them know that's happened.
Well, we'll do an inspection on it also as part of that.
Any further comment?
No, well, one thing just for the benefit of the public, Mr. Lanzafama testified as to the number of requirements of the stormwater regulations and having to keep the water. That's not going to be a condition of the resolution because that's not really in our jurisdiction, but those are things that our engineer will be the one reviewing all those plans and ensuring that they capture all the stormwater and retain it on site, as per his testimony, but it wouldn't be our approval.
Okay, I think that's it. Jackie?
Thank you. Mr. Diner,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Ratner,
Yes.
Mr. Reber,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Cucci,
Yes.
Ms. Begoli,
Yes.
Ms. Vishnu,
Yes.
And that's for Mr. Santola?
yes. Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, you have no further business. I have a motion to adjourn.
Happy to make that motion.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? We're done at 9:06.
Very good.
All right, you're getting better, Ruth.
I have-